Hello and good afternoon to all of you who are present here with us today. I am Pallavi Gupta, a part of the Startup India team. Today we're back with another session as part of our Rise Up series, Building from Bricks, with an initiative under the National Startup Awards 2022. In this series, we'll hear from stalwarts across industries, innovations, and domains on key trends and the overall ecosystem. National Startup Awards is actually a flagship program undertaken by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade as part of the Startup India initiative. The call for application for the third edition has been opened from 1st of February. Today, we have with us Ms Kritika Murugesan, Director of 10,000 Startups and Products, NASSCOM. She oversees the operations of the NASSCOM Startup Incubation Program across the country and leads programs to help build and grow startups. She also works very closely with various state governments to build the ecosystem for tech entrepreneurs. We welcome you, Ms. Kritika.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you for having me here, and an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
It's completely our pleasure to host you today. And with that, let me ask you my first question and something that is hailing from the tech industry, where NASSCOM actually, specializes. So, the early 2000s tech industry was dominated by various big tech players in the market. And now we are seeing that the industry is pivoting to startups as they are gaining momentum. Just want to understand what is the role that NASSCOM envisions to play to support this shift.
Yeah. Thanks, Pallavi, for that question. It's we've come a long way, right, in terms of the overall startup journey. Just to share a few numbers, right? Today we stand at about between 25,000 to 26,000 total number of Indian tech startups, which have been founded between 2011 to 21. And just in 2021, we had over 2,250 startups that were founded, and we had 42 unicorns added in 2021. And with this kind of phenomenal growth, I really have to step back to about 10, 11 years back, when NASSCOM started the whole 10,000 startups program, and this was in 2012. And at that time, our research kind of showed that the young startups didn't have a safe place to work from, right? When I mean safe place, like where they could come together, share ideas, and have mentors and things like that. Right, but today every street has a co-working space. But in 2011, 2012, co-working spaces were not so. They were hardly around, and it was not a concept that was known, right? So when we started the program to say, let's build 10,000 startups in this country, tech startups, and how do we enable that? And the first thing that we did at that point of time, Pallavi, was go and work with different state governments to build this co-working spaces for starters, which we call warehouses. And the whole idea was, one, to subsidize largely for young entrepreneurs, and then give them a place to work from with internet and other facilities. But more importantly, bring the right kind of mentors, right? Bring the right kind of tech mentors, bring people who would help them build their pitch decks, connect them to the ecosystem, right? And at the same time, we started working with different state and center governments to say, how do we enable some of the policies that are needed to make the environment very conducive for startups to work from, right? So if you really see, while we still predominantly are a services nation, right, and from the IT services, but having said that, just the product software industry today is envisioned to grow by 2025 from a 9 billion to a, today it's 13 billion to a 30 billion, right? And there's so many factors that are working around that. So NASSCOM has predominantly played the role of saying, how do you bring the ecosystem together, right? How do we evangelize, right, the right kind of policies? How do you evangelize the right kind of mindset as well? Because if you look at 2010, 2011, even for young entrepreneurs, there were issues of mindset also, saying are they going to be successful? How are they going to make money? And all of that. Well, of course, today it's a completely different scenario. But I think that steady growth and the role that we've played in bringing the ecosystem together and building the right kind of policies, creating these places for startups to come and work from, taking our startups to, as delegations to other geographies to establish more and more and put on stage the Indian young startups. I think that's largely the role that we've played.
Thank you, Kritika. I mean, that was extremely insightful. So happy looking at the work that NASSCOM has been doing. The initiative is so amazing, and everything that you just said it flows into what the Indian startup ecosystem is all about. And we are seeing how enablers across the country are playing such a huge role in boosting the startup ecosystem. So coming to my next question, and partly you've answered it from NASSCOM's perspective, but from a general perspective, what are some ways in which various stakeholders in the startup ecosystem can build synergies to further support these startups?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Pallavi. And today we are at a cusp where we really need to collaborate, very very strongly. Whether it's the government, whether it's the VC community, whether it's the corporate sector, right? And bringing all, and the academic sector as well, the academia, right? And how do we bringing all of them together, because see today, as you know firstly, right, why is startups important, right? Startups bring innovation to the table. Bringing innovation to the table means you're making healthcare more affordable, you're making food more affordable, you're improving agri-tech, right, and edutech, and so many things, right? So each one of us have that responsibility to bring that ecosystem together to make it grow bigger and better, right? A typical example I'd like to give you, right? The work that we do around deep tech product startups and deep tech startups, right? One of the most important things for them for any deep tech startup is the R&D, and the R&D, research and development funds, and talent around that, right? So without the support of academia, right, bringing this to the forefront and bringing those ties together becomes very difficult, right? So if I take this same example and try to explain, from the whole deep tech ecosystem perspective, right, we need talent, we need market access, right, and we need deep pockets for R&D, right? So, and who are the key enablers for this? Government to start with, academic institutions, large corporates, right? And to build market access, it's all three of them together, right? So how do we tie all this together becomes extremely critical to grow. And I'm just taking deep tech as an example, but this applies to every sector of startups, any vertical of startups that we talk about. So I think those key enablers, if you ask me, if I have to pull out two key things that's going to make a huge difference to startups, is one is the right kind of mentorship, tech and business, and market access. These two fall in place, your funding will fall in place.
Completely agreed. I think some very true and very potent points brought forth by you. And especially, seeing that during the pandemic, a lot of these startups faced issues, faced problems when it came to addressing some of the many pain points. And while also the startup journey also boosted during the pandemic when they realized various issues that the general public is facing, uh, giving startups many ideas to position themselves and cater to these needs, solve them for the public. So where is India positioned among the mature startup ecosystem globally today?
So, Pallavi, see, we are the third largest ecosystem in the country, right? And in terms of the whole startup segment, right? And if you see the kind of investments that are growing in 2021, the seed funding grew grew into 2x, right? And the kind of funding that we are seeing across is phenomenal, right? In 2021, we raised, total equity investments raised by Indian startups in just 2021 was 24.1 billion, right? And that's the kind of numbers that we're seeing, right? And if I have to go back and quote saying, 42 unicorns in 1 year, right? And to see this, increase in the overall investment from various sectors in, whether it is seed funding or mature mature startup funding, I think that's very heartening. And we've also grown in the global index ranking as well. And so it's I think it's at a stage where we can only go upwards, and continuing to invest in seed funding and early stage startups is going to be also very critical to how the ecosystem is going to grow further.
Completely agreed, Kritika. And in fact, we had our Startup India Seed Fund scheme also launched in 2021, which also saw a lot of traction, which also gave helped many startups, to start their activities and support them. So, in 2021, overall, we've witnessed a huge upsurge in the startup activity in India, as you just said. So, how has technology enabled the Indian startup ecosystem?
So, Pallavi, I'll start by saying that, one, I think technology has made, like we all know, has made life easier. But for me personally, and what is very, uh, very motivating for me is, how technology has made life easier for people across the world, right? How it has impacted tier 2, tier 3 cities, how it's impacted our villages, how ease of financial transactions has happened, right? How affordable healthcare has happened, right? During the pandemic, education, right? And that whole, how everything just went online, and how tech enabled the whole thing, right? To, after that initial glitch, how it enabled to for the students to continue their classes, for exams to be held online, right? And then it was tough working from home, or studying from home without all the social interaction. But it's still, technology made it possible that students didn't, lose a year, or and everything just went seamless, right? After a point of time, especially, and that's the example I'd like to quote, especially in terms of education and how it enabled it. And the other part, if you see today, Pallavi, tech has become very overarching, right? Any business needs tech in some form, right? Even if you take somebody who has a very small business, like a small catering business, but you still need tech enabled, like an app, or your, as basic as your WhatsApp or whatever, in terms of communication, to make it so for me, tech is overarching all of this, right? And you'll only see tech playing a bigger and bigger game in making things, better and affordable. And one of the things that, we hear about, and they're also trying to, contribute to that, is how do you also make a lot of small businesses more tech enabled, right? How do you make transactions easier for them? How do you help them track it, and how, things like that? So for me, so tech is a very overarching theme in terms of the startup world.
No, I completely agree with that statement. And as you said, tech has brought so much ease to our general life, and how startups are picking up tech in different domains is something that is so unique, something that is so innovative, that it actually makes the Indian startup ecosystem flourish. Uh, Coming to as you said that you look after a lot of incubation activities that are happening at NASSCOM, and how in 2021 a lot of early stage startups grew. So in your experience, what are the three key areas that early stage startups should actually focus on?
So Pallavi, from our experience and what we see at our warehouses, I think one definitely is, do your research really well when you come up with an idea, right? Understand the market potential, and understand and do that research really well when you have that idea that you're working on. Two is, right, get the right kind of mentor, right? Today I strongly believe, whether it is, from getting your pitch deck the right way, getting your financial planning the right way, getting the right kind of documentations the right way, and you need a good mentor, right? And then the third is, when you work with incubators, and you have to learn how to optimize, the way you work with them, right? It's not like you join an incubator and everything is just going to come to you, right? So how do you engage with people in the incubation center? How do you use the opportunities that are brought to your table, right? If I have to give you an example, right? For example, apply for some of the awards, right? So what happens is, winning or losing is secondary, but when you apply for some of these challenges, right, you're answering so many questions, and which gives you a very, and you're penning down things that you might not have thought about, right? Or which you will see as gaps in your business plan, right? So so that's one of the things that we encourage our incubators to do, saying apply for this, right? You may not even make a final submission, but take an attempt at filling some of these things, right? Like if you apply for the national startup awards, right? The kind of framework that is there has a lot to think as well for young startups, right? Early stage startups. So it becomes like a good thought board as well, right? And there's so many of these challenges happening there, which are very vertical centric, which are horizontal and things like that. But so doing some of these things also helps you grow, helps you think through a few things, right? So if you ask me what are the three things that they should focus on: one, building that proper business plan, having a good mentor who will guide you through this, and use some of these opportunities that come to you, right? Whether it's the Métis Startup Hub, NASSCOM Startup Hub, right? And the kinds of tools that are available there for early stage startups to make life easy for them, right? Make use of some of these things, uh, right? So yeah, these three things, I would say market access and all of them, that would come in like the phase two, but very early stage, I would say focus on these.
Very rightly said, Kritika. I think any opportunity that comes the way for an early stage startup is a golden opportunity, something that they should definitely look into. Research and development, as you said, extremely important to see whether it's feasible or not. So, completely agree with all the points that you just mentioned. And with that, I also want to understand what are some of the common challenges that entrepreneurs are facing when their startups are at a very nascent stage. And a second part to that question is that how can these challenges be dealt with the support of, say, various organizations like NASSCOM, Startup India, and on their own as well.
So challenges are plenty, Pallavi, right? It's never easy being an entrepreneur, right? It's a long journey. It's a tough journey, and uh, you know it's a 24/7, 24/7 kind of a scenario. So challenges are these, right? Finding one is your overall understanding of your own market that you're going to reach out to, and what is your market potential, a complete understanding of that. Two is finding the right kind of talent for your own startup, right? In today's scenario, there's such a big talent war, and there's so much of upskilling that's needed in the ecosystem, right? So finding the talent becomes really difficult, right? And three is, I think a lot of sorry, I'm repeating this point, but a lot of startups also struggle with a lot of paperwork, right? In terms of whether it's registration, sometimes whether it's IP filing, a lot of those kind of paperwork, right? I mean, significantly easier now, but a lot of them do struggle with some of these things. And so and of course, see, while there is, various platforms on which multiple kind of mentorship programs are there, but finding the right mentor again is, it is a challenge where they gel together, they work together well. Right. And I think also from a young entrepreneur side, it's also how much are they willing to pivot sometimes their idea, right? Like we've seen examples where, we've shortlisted startups and it's a good idea, we've taken them to large enterprises to work closely with them in terms of mentorship and helping them, package it better. But sometimes the startup as well is not flexible or open to some of those suggestions. So trying to be more open minded about that is also very critical.
No, I think very rightly pointed out. And, while we are making strides in terms of how startups are dealing with these challenges with the support of, say, various organizations, various government initiatives, of course, it is a long road. We will be doing a lot more, and startups will be proliferating in India. And coming to various
Sorry,
industries.
Pallavi, if I may just add one point that I've kind of missed out, right? Today, in terms of opportunities as well, right? If you say funding continues to be a problem, right, for young startups and how they're going to raise money and things like that. But the number of opportunities that are there today, Pallavi, it's unbelievable, right? Whether the various the seed different kind of government seed funds, the different grants that are available with state and center government, the kind of challenges that are thrown open with prize monies and grant monies. And there's generally so much more openness in the whole enterprise sector as well to work closely with startups, right? So how do you use some of these opportunities, becomes very critical.
And rightly pointed out, Kritika. I mean, that is where we also our initiative, the National Startup Awards 2022, also plugs in, wherein we also provide a lot of hand-holding support to the winners and the
Right.
finalists across market access, various funding opportunities, so on and so forth. So, as you said, a lot is going on in the community, and startups should definitely look out for channels to, help them with the challenges they are facing, make use of the opportunities that come their way, and aim for the best growth possible, of course. With that, I also want to understand, there are many sunrise industries that are gaining traction in India, becoming bigger by the day. Uh, which industries or sectors do you see as the game changers for, say, the next 5 years?
So everything is so like upbeat. We just launched like our startup report in Jan, and the product ecosystem report last week. And so if I have to the 25 plus verticals that we're saying will see tremendous growth, right? But if I have to call out specifically where we're seeing like tremendous growth is definitely agri-tech, manufacturing, and logistics related. Um, Health tech continues, right? And gaming and blockchain.
I think that also flows from the number of unicorns we are seeing these days, and some of the sectors which were not brought to the forefront. It's so good to see those coming up, and how India is realizing the vision of India 2.0 and fueling the Atmanirbharta model that the honorable Prime Minister has proposed for India. With that, if you allow, I would like to be a little more candid, try to understand you a little personally with some of the questions that we have for you today. Uh, so, what is your biggest motivation every single morning that keeps you going, keeps you energized to work in this area and contribute?
So Pallavi, I'm going to answer this, in a little longer way than, and instead of like a rapid fire one word kind of a thing. Um, so see, for me personally, being able to make a change and contribute to the development of the ecosystem is my key motivator. So I've been with NASSCOM for 14 plus years, but in between I had a gap for 2 years where I worked elsewhere. But I just came running back to NASSCOM. Right. So for me, that ability to make that little change in the ecosystem and be a contributor to the change in the ecosystem is what motivates me and gets me out of bed every morning.
Thank you so much for answering that. Secondly, which book has been the most influential for you, has really impacted you in the recent?
So again, I'm not going to quote a book from very recent times that I've read, but something that I read when I was very young and which really helped, imbibe a couple of things in me is the Fountainhead, right? And there were two things that I took away from that book. One was your passion to do what you need to do in the right way, right? And how and again giving back to the ecosystem. I think those two key things of that passion to do the right thing the right way and contributing to a larger ecosystem. I think those two things. I know it's a very, people are like, oh God, not that book, but yeah, that's something that I read when I was in school, and it's just stayed with me.
I actually happened to read that recently, and it's one of my favorite books all time. So, completely with you on board there. Uh, um, Coming to the last question, want to understand, like, how do you spend your leisure time? What sort of activities, you do? Just trying to see a little bit more to you.
So I love to go on treks, and that's like, I just love greenery. And so most, like, at least once in 2 months I try to go somewhere close by for a trek and spend some time in the midst of greenery. But otherwise, weekends are generally family time, Pallavi, because during the week we don't get much of a chance. So I do try and spend my time with family on weekends.
Thank you so much, Kritika, for giving us this insight into your personal life. And it was an absolute pleasure to hear about these things from you. My last question for the day before I open the floor for some audience questions. As an active stakeholder promoting the startup ecosystem in India, right? In your opinion, how do initiatives like the National Startup Awards 2022 help the community grow and gain recognition both domestically and internationally?
Good question, Pallavi. Because a lot of times we undermine one, the effort that goes in running an award process like this by itself, right? So firstly, kudos to the teams that run these really large award processes. I know the amount of hard work you guys put into to drive some of this, right? So what happens, like one thing I already quoted about, when you fill some of these award processes, gives you some more clarity in thinking of your own, business and how you're approaching it, right? Through a lot of these awards and certifications, do give you that mileage to give you the credibility and the mileage, right? To for example, if I'm recommending a startup to somebody for an enterprise connect session, right? And I tell them they are winners of the National Startup Awards, right? There's definitely a seal that is there in terms of the credibility, the due diligence that's done, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is, uh, when this due diligence is done, when it is done, and the overall ecosystem support that you guys like Startup India and DPIT bring in, right? The amount of sessions that happens, the amount of connects to the right kind of investors and mentors, to industry leaders as well, right? It just opens so many more doors than and builds that access to this, right? And having also some of if I'm sorry, I know I'm repeating myself, but I do want to spend a minute talking about how Startup India and the sessions that you do for all the finalists and the winners and the VC Connect sessions, the seed fund sessions that you do, I think is and how you work with so many different partners, right? Whether it's TIE, NASSCOM, CII, FICCI, Indian angel investors, the VC community, just the amount of collaboration that you guys bring to the table to directly benefit these startups who are part of these awards process. I think it's like a lot of things that come with advantages of applying for these awards and being part of the finalists and things like that.
Thank you so much, Kritika. It was a pleasure, hearing from you. I'll just open the floor for some questions from the audience that we have received. Um, the first question that we have is how can NASSCOM support early stage startups and help them grow?
So, two things. Please log into the NASSCOM 10,000 Startups website. So we have 7 incubation programs across the country, 7 centers, and we also have a virtual incubation program. Where you get access to the startup kit, you get access to mentors, you get access to enterprise connects, uh, right, and become part of the entire process where you meet a lot of people, become part of the community program, a lot of knowledge series sessions, things like that. But I leave the knowledge series sessions aside. But best is to apply for some of these programs and look at how do you stay connected in terms of especially enterprise connects and funding connects and mentorship connects, those 3 things. But yeah, of course you'll have to apply to the program and be part of it. But apart from that, there's a lot of other now we will start doing a lot of hybrid sessions like we used to do 3 years back, the physical sessions where like the NASSCOM product conclave and a lot of different other startup related sessions where they be also NASSCOM, and there are our other flagship events where we give you demo booths and things like that, and connect you to the right kind of leaders. I think those are some ways in which we support. And one of our largest and most successful program is our NASSCOM Industry Partnership Connect, where we collect use cases from different corporates and shortlist startups across the country and do that matchmaking. So, and yeah, that'll happen only if you register with us, and we are aware of what you do and work closely with you.
Thank you so much. Last of the day is what are initiatives are available for idea level startups apart from grants?
So at idea level startups, it's more about how you come and interact with the team, understand the idea, and how we understand the idea, or our teams at NASSCOM understand the idea at 10,000 startups, and help you build on that idea, and then do the hand holding from there to see what can be done next, right? So it's not like a blanket program that we have as such, but it's all about understanding what you're doing and then doing the right kind of connects from there.
Uh, Thank you so much, Kritika, for joining us today. It has been a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for this interesting session. And I'm sure all the startups, all the ecosystem stakeholders, and others who have joined us today for this session, they gained deep insights from your words. With this, we come to the end of our session today. And before we go, we would like to inform all the startups, incubators, and accelerators who are listening to us today to apply now for the National Startup Awards 2022. The applications close on 15th of April 2022, and it is a golden opportunity that you should definitely not miss out on.
Yeah, Pallavi, can I just add one thing here on that? Right,
Yes.
I definitely do encourage everyone to apply for this because my experience, my personal experience of last year and currently, the effort that you guys are taking to make sure that these startups and the finalists succeed, not just the winners, but even the finalists in each category kind of succeed. I think it's very, very heartwarming in terms of how precise the team has been in terms of making sure the sessions happen, making sure that the connects happen, and it's extremely inspiring, and I would encourage everyone to apply for this.
Thank you so much, Kritika. It was a pleasure hearing from you today.
Thank you. Thank you.